Good morning, everybody. Today's date is Thursday, the 11th of February, and we're coming up to finishing our learning journey. How important are hedgehogs in the garden food chain? And we're working on our final outcome. So, if we look on our wheel of inquiry, our task wheel, we've come all the way round from here, and now we're telling other people about how important hedgehogs are. And we are producing our own explanation text. So we're explaining all about hedgehogs and why they are so important in food chains, what their role is, how important they are in the garden food chain. And you all made a brilliant start yesterday. You wrote your title, which needs to be a question, and you had a go at writing the introduction part to our explanation text. So you told me all about hedgehogs and you explained as though someone was an alien coming down from space, and you told them all about hedgehogs. So we definitely had a question for our title. You really thought about your capital letters and full stops, and lots of you are using some tier 3 vocabulary like hibernate or omnivore. So today I want you to focus on the next part of our explanation text. So we're going to draw a diagram of a food chain, and we're going to explain that for our readers. So you've done this part here, you've drawn your hedgehog diagram, and you've done your introduction here to telling us about hedgehogs. Now we need to write a subheading here. So we're going to draw a garden food chain. So that's going to be our subheading, a garden food chain up there. And then you're going to draw an example of a food chain with a hedgehog in it. Can you try and label your food chain as well with that tier 3 vocabulary? Producer, consumer, predator and prey. Okay, then in this box here, you're going to explain all about food chains and what the food chains show. Then for your final part, you are going to explain ways to help hedgehogs. Ways to help hedgehogs so that we can attract more hedgehogs to our gardens. Okay, let's just have a think together, and I'll show you what I mean about explaining food chains, and then I'll talk about the last part that you need to do. So I will put up this template again on Class Dojo, and a printable version too, so that you can do the next part. So let's think about describing our food chain. Now we want it to be a really good explanation, so if someone hadn't heard about food chains before, they would understand them. So we could say a food chain shows, what does it show? A food chain shows how energy is transferred from, Miss Pindlewhite needs to spell that correctly, from plants to animals and other animals. So in our food chain that we're going to draw, we're going to have, starting off, what does it always start off with? That's right, always starts off with the sun, doesn't it? And the sun transfers its energy into the plant, and the plant uses that energy from the sun and air and water to produce its own food. A food chain shows how energy is transferred from plants to animals and other animals. So we could say it starts with the sun and its energy goes into the plant, called a producer. Then what happens? The snail, or you might have a slug or another invertebrate, eats the plant, so it is called a consumer. And you can finish that off then, because after the snail, what do we have? That's right, it's the hedgehog, the predator. So another consumer, like a hedgehog, eats the plant, or eats the snail, doesn't it? Although hedgehogs could eat seeds, but in our food chain, it's going to eat the snail or the slug or the beetle. And then you might even have another predator after that, like a badger or a fox. So that is the part where you're going to explain what a food chain is and what your food chain shows, okay, for your reader. you can use some of my ideas if you'd like to, but try and use your own words as well. Now, in this last part, you might need to do a little bit of research. So ways to help hedgehogs, or ways to help attract hedgehogs to your garden. How many can you think of? Perhaps put out food for hedgehogs. So suitable foods, put out foods like, and you could offer some suggestions, like cat food or dog food. It could be make a hedgehog house for hedgehogs to hibernate during the winter. It could be check your garden is free from any hazards. So a hazard is something, maybe sharp objects or place where a hedgehog might get stuck. And it might also be when you're clearing out, or when you're having a bonfire or something, or when you're clearing out your garden, check to make sure that there's no hedgehogs underneath, because they like to live, don't they, and go and hibernate in under bushes and in piles of leaves and things like that. So I'll put up some links to help you with the final part, ways you think you could help attract hedgehogs to your garden. Okay, now let's just have a think about what we did the other day and how important hedgehogs are to our gardens. They're really cool gardeners' friends, because if we took them out of their food chain, then their invertebrates like slugs and snails might eat all of the gardener's fantastic plants. So they're really important to help our gardens and make sure that they don't get overrun, taken over by invertebrates. So you might want to put that somewhere as well in your final outcome. Now tomorrow we're going to be sharing what we've done and thinking about how successful we've been in answering our learning journey question. So finish up your final outcome and your fantastic writing, and if you've got any questions you can ask me today in our Zoom call. Well done everybody.